Welcome to Ruck Up Podcast. I'm your host, Joel Ness, and on
Have
today's
pride in what you're doing, and not just, there are some guys like, oh, I don't like to hear security guard, it's security officer. Well, whatever it is, if you want to think of yourself that way, or a security agent, if it gives you pride.
To help support the show and our guests, please check out the show notes and follow us on all of our social media platforms.
Nothing interesting on TV? That's why you're listening to dvradio.net WDVR.
This ain't reality TV!
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
Well, isn't that special?
Laddie, don't you think you should rephrase that?
Mama said that. Mama.
Good day, sir!
Now class is dismissed, gentlemen.
Well, my name is Sean Sweeney. I live in Michigan. I've been in the security industry a little bit over 20 years. I kind of grew up with it. I don't have the degrees that some of the people have that's only been in the industry a few years. I've been literally doing this my entire adult life. It's kind of weird how it started. After high school, I'm not really sure what I wanted to do. I went to go into service for a little while. My dad got sick, got put in hospice. I had to go home. I took a little security job in it was like an older folks home, like a vehicle patrol. Not a whole lot of money. People got to remember back then, $8.50 was a lot of money in security.
Right. Yeah.
The money really in the last 10 years is really starting to come up.
Right.
But, I know guys back then, making $10 an hour armed, and living life,
Yeah, exactly.
That was high money back then.
And what time period was this?
Oh, this would have been like the mid-90s.
Mid-90s.
The late 90s. I worked there a couple of years. It was all right. It was a lot of, with all these security jobs, there's always politics. You know what I mean? You might not understand them, or you might not agree with them, but every place you go, every building you go, every event you go, there's always a certain level of politics, and most of the time you just got to learn to avoid it, so there were certain things that we had to do there that absolutely made no sense, but that's just the way they did it. And
can you give us an example?
Well, like when you're putting a flag away, when you're putting an American flag away, a lot of those veterans would come out and watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everything had to be done per step.
Right.
And I was okay with that, but some of the other people who were just, to them, they were folding up a flag, they made sure it didn't hit the ground, but so that would cause problems. So if it caused problems for the client, then most certainly it caused problems for the contractor,
Right.
So you just have to learn, to handle those kind of things and kind of learn what to expect. And I think, the biggest thing is, especially back then, is if there was a trouble spot, nobody told you about it. Because they were afraid you weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they just kind of let you go on your own. And then whatever your experience was, it wasn't influenced by anyone else, but he most certainly wasn't ready for it.
Now, is that because there wasn't a lot of people in the industry that had the experience, or was it just, it's been around for a while.
I just think, even still with today, that people don't take the time to teach people stuff.
Right.
Especially the history of stuff. A lot more people will understand why they're sitting on a gate that nobody's going to come to the 18 hours you're there. But, if you explain to them that why you're there, again, not that people doing this industry should have explanation on how to do things, but sometimes explaining why a person is doing things, it helps.
I think that's
what I mean. And
yeah,
you have to, part of this, the supervisor, especially at events, people think is to tell the people what to do, and that's not really the case. You're there to take care of your people.
Yeah.
Your people are there to take care of the client's people. So people, when you get into supervision, if you want to get into it, it tells a lot about your personality. I never wanted to get into supervision because I didn't want to tell people what to do.
Yeah.
I was always that guy that did my job, but I didn't want to yell. I understood why this person was late for the 19th time and why we're not letting them go, but I don't want to tell them that.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you have to learn to navigate through those things, and especially back in those days. And companies, I guess it would still even happen today. They don't, especially some of the small ones, they don't take the time to teach the craft. And let's be honest, security to a point can be taught. You can teach it to a point,
right?
But it's one of those industries, like a painter. I got a friend that's a painter, and this guy's fabulous. I mean, but what he does, it's amazing what he does. I'm talking about painting houses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't even come close to that.
Yeah.
He's not good at anything else. But it is. You got to be on who you are. There's no shame being in who you are. And I recognized at a young age that, I was kind of a security person.
You get it.
I drifted off the subject a little bit, but back then it was different. And,
right.
People didn't really care to talk to the people under them. They most certainly didn't care. And if you were on a site, the sites when you're by yourself, those are the worst.
Yeah.
But if you happen to be on a site where there's a couple other guards there, it helps. And if you have a good team, or if you guys, at least get along, you don't have to like each other, but if you at least get along, it can make your days kind of fun.
Absolutely. Now, so when you were working at the retirement home, what made you keep doing security? What was that drive?
Well, I was actually kind of trying to get out of it. To be honest with you, I went to, that was at the time where I was like, do I want to be a cop? Do I want to, what is it I want to do? I went to a friend talked me into going to a job fair, and I think it was like a law enforcement security job fair, and I think it was at Wayne State, the university in Detroit. And they had a whole bunch of, police departments and security companies there. And, so I put a couple applications in, and back then we didn't have cell phones. At least, I did. You had to make pretty big money to have a cell phone back then.
Yeah.
So by the time I got home, a company already called that was doing the malls, and they paid like $10. And it was $10 for an unarmed. So I was at the retirement home. I think I was making like $8.50, and I was driving like an hour and a half to get there.
Oh wow.
So it made, if I was going to drive it anyway, it made sense, to try to make more money and do the type of security that I thought that I would like, or at least while I was doing it, waiting on something else, that it would be fun. Security in a building, don't get me wrong, it's okay, but security when you're dealing with people, it's
a totally different.
It could be some of your work. It could be your worst times, or it could be your best times.
Absolutely.
But you just never know what you're going to deal with.
Yeah.
So I started working in a place called Wonderland Mall. It's no longer there anymore, but it was a fairly big mall. My first day there was a carjacking.
Oh, yeah.
So as we're responding to it, I learned a couple important lessons. One about footwear. I realized that not all black shoes are the same, especially when you're going to be running in them.
Yeah.
So I started going to the boots after that, and then it just seemed that every time something happened, I always got, I had to go call the office and talk to this guy named Joel Ortez, who was the security director of all these malls. And this guy is, a giant. Let me tell you, the greatest thing you can do right now as a young person getting in this business is find the older people that's been in this business a long time and talk to them.
Yeah.
Pick their brains. Find out their stories, because you're going to get more information from those guys than you're ever going to be in a class that you're going to pay for, that you're ever going to pick off a book, or you're ever going to pick off a YouTube video.
Absolutely.
You're going to get more information from those people than you will anybody else.
Yeah.
I promise you. So I always made it a point, to talk to people. So, an incident would happen, and, obviously we'd have to do our reports, and he was kind of the judge on how things are going to be handled. So, after being in his office several times at that mall, there was other malls having an issue. So they thought that me and a couple other guys, it'd be best for everyone if we just start going to these problem malls, as a 2 or 3 man team, and work within, the current staff to try to deal with some of these issues.
Right.
So I got to go to a couple different malls. Some of them were okay. Some of them were better than other ones. But after doing that for a few years, I kind of settled down in a place called Universal Mall, which is also gone. All these companies, all these malls were owned by a Michigan company called Showstack, and they're huge, huge family, huge. They do like Burger Kings and Del Tacos. I think they do now. I don't.
Like a property management company type of thing.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
But it's also a family. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's a pretty big Michigan family. So his office was there, so I was able to talk with him. And one of the the other things, trying to find a gap to talk to some of these older folks is that, like Civil War history, military history, it's kind of like our golf.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're in the, trading, or if you're in, some other kind of business or sales, you're going to play golf. And, with most security people, it always seems to me that, they're somewhat history people.
And I don't want to take off too much on what you're talking about now, but can you talk about, because you are a history buff. I mean, I've never seen anybody as much as you are. Can you explain what got you into that?
Well, I think, I grew up with a family that, had people north and south. We still had family down south, and obviously I was born in Michigan. And so a lot of those early stories, and I always seem drawn to it. One, because it's like, I mean, you think about millions and millions of people that were involved in that, even the civilian life. Each one of those people, like what you're trying to do, everyone in security has a story. Each one of those people had a story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was kind of like the first thing. And I was always fascinated with, the large battlefield, not necessarily like the most numbers, or it just fascinated me how to picking a piece of ground over another one would be an advantage or disadvantage.
Right.
Even like the Napoleonic warfare, it's so, almost on the side of what we do as a large scale events. It's crazy. I mean, even if you think about the numbers, they had so many numbers attacking for every man defending. I think it was like 4 or 5. They determined that for every one man defending a certain area, they would take 4 or 5. Well, we work with similar numbers. Sometimes they're bigger, but as you're calculating these things, you're working on the numbers. So I always was fascinated with battlefields, and I guess the beauty of them, and it helped. And Mr. Ortez is one of those guys. Like when he took me under his wings, and he had a little side company that he owned, and that he did special events, kind of like high-end events. Yeah. The Israel Defense Force dinners, a lot of stuff within the Jewish community. And he took me on his Aider camp, and that's how he put it, so, going back to the history part of it, a lot of, I think it helped me was the study of that. And like I said, most certainly with, talking to people who were older than I am, or even still older than I am, still in the business, one of the common, the things is the history thing and what those people went through. I mean, the bravery those people, had to go through is nothing that we see now, and nothing against the military now. I mean, obviously those guys are brave, but I mean, if you just sit and think about, what it is to cross an empty field when, several thousand people are shooting in that direction, and still do it. You know what I mean? If you look at the Confederates that, Pickett's charge, for those guys to even make it to the fence in 2 places, and they were still well dressed, and how they marched. I mean, they even stopped a couple times to reform their ranks. I mean,
oh, that's impressive. Yeah.
And then that was over, it was over a mile that those guys, charged. But even if you go to, the battle at like Stones River, which is another, huge charge. I mean, the Union charged at the Confederate like 14 times. If you even go to Cold Harbor, the Union, Grant lost 15,000 people in like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So to me, that stuff always kind of impressed me. And, I don't know if I'd call it an old soul, but I always, one thing that my family, I think, if I can say anything that they did well for me, that they exposed me to a whole bunch of different people. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and not only that, I think that helped me in my, in my adult life, that you know, we're all the same. I mean, we're all water and electricity. You know, you can't really get in. And you could, that's crazy when you go into events or even like battlefields, you can feel that electricity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can't say that's not true, because you could feel it. You know, if you ever been to a battlefield anywhere, especially a Civil War battlefield, you can still feel the electricity there. But, if you go to an event, if you go to a large scale event, you most certainly can feel the electricity there. Absolutely. But I think we're, besides Mr. Ortez making a connection, but, when you're in the setup of these things and how beautiful the field is, and with him, he helped me, learn the setup of things, the placement of things. And it was similar to a battlefield, and even how, and again, I use that term lightly. I don't think what we do is a battlefield. You know what I mean? The endurance may be on the level of it, but I don't think that way. But I use those terms because it's really that's the only way that I know how to express what I'm saying on a grand scale.
Yeah.
Even when you're talking about, the sheer numbers of some of these battles. I mean, if you look at Ford Field where the Lions play, they hold 56,000 people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Imagine, we lost that much, like Gettysburg, 3 days of Gettysburg, was like 56,000 people. Mm-hmm. So that's one stadium full. And then somehow that, I can make you can make people nowadays understand the scale of things, by putting modern terms into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when you were talking to this individual, what kind of got the whole momentum going, that you were thinking, okay, now events is something that I want to get into. This is something I want to do?
Well, he kept on asking me, what is it, I plan on doing. And I still didn't, my dad passed, in my early 20s, so Mr. Ortez kind of, in a lot of ways he took that, you know what I mean? Let's be honest. Everybody wants someone to be proud of them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And all the tough guys say, well, no, that's not true. You do. Yeah. I mean, besides money, I mean, there's pride that can help you get along. But, everybody wants somebody, that wants that acknowledgement, and, I looked to it with him, and a lot of other little issues that I would go to at the point, I found myself looking at to him because he just had a way of, putting things, you know what I'm saying? And it just like cleared up whatever noise was in the background. It just cleared it up. Like, you're right. What are you going to do? Either you're going to, you sit and pout about it, or you're just going to have to get up and do it again.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, that's the other thing in this business. Contracts and companies close. It's one of the most heartbreaking industries. Me personally, I worked for a company for 8 years. They lost a contract because the mall company sold it to another mall company, and they had their own security company. And they were willing to take everybody on, but I lost 8 years of seniority. Like 5 weeks of vacation. You know what I mean? Not all these jobs are fantastic jobs. A lot of jobs that you see on the movies, they're few and rare. You know what I mean? It's not too many security guys can do what some of those guys do in the movies. I mean, there's a few of them out there, but for the most part, it's not an easy life at times.
No, and I agree 100%. When you're going through transitions, you brought up the fact that companies come and go. I know that it's good. It's like you said, it's good that the people are transported from one company to the next, and they get to keep their jobs, and that's great. But I think people forget that we are contracted. We do end. Things do stop. It's not a full-fledged career. It is a full-fledged career, but you got to make it the best you possibly can. Yeah. And I think learning along.
And with those other companies, that I think, not to interrupt you, but with those other companies, people got to realize they already got people to replace you.
Yeah.
I mean, so if there's any, if you have, I hung on to jobs like. That's not the first time, but I had one that was 3 or 4 years that, I ended up staying with the new company, and everything that I thought was going to happen happened, besides all the promises, because there's so many snake oil salesmen in this business. There is a dark side to this business.
Yeah.
A lot of these people, they don't give a shit about you, regardless what they tell you. They really don't. They already got the people that can replace you. You have to make the best choices. What's good for you. I mean, it's okay to hang on to a job until you find another one, but you can't get into that thing that you think you're replaceable. Like you're saying, we are contractors. It's the whole notion of contract security, a contract or anything. It's going to end.
Yeah.
That's why they went to that, because they didn't want the continuation of the expense.
But it's funny that companies are still working off that old model that you can be replaced, because nowadays there's not that many left and people aren't running to the security industry like they used to. And the fact is
we did it to ourselves.
Well, we did. Well, I agree with you 100% on that.
No, I've been saying this for years, that you can't look at the security business as a product. You can't. We're not used car salesmen. Trade secrets in this business can save lives. Why would you hold that?
Yeah.
People, it's a dangerous industry at any level, and this whole thing, like where these huge companies combine, it's not going to work because you can't go on that business model. You just can't. There's always expenses in security. And basically, you're selling blocks of time for people with spaces.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's it. That's all you're doing. You're not if you're a used car salesman and you're a little dirty, you sell that car, it's out of your life. Yeah. Well, when we sell that block of time, we still got to sell it, and it might not be the same person. And a lot of times it's not, and that's where you get the downfall in the industry, because of a lot of these people you just come to as body placement.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Even in events, they do it because, the numbers that you're talking about. A lot of these companies, even the bigger ones, they can't fill some of these numbers. That's why you see all this subcontracting now. Access is great at it. They're a fantastic company. They're out of Tennessee. They do it when they come up here to do a couple events. There's 4 or 5 other companies working. Electric Forest, I think there was 6 companies.
Yeah.
And we were, the company that I work with, we were brought on, the last 50 to 60 guys, almost a month towards an end.
Yeah.
So it's people forgot that, even, the care of people, I don't want to get ahead, but, like the care of people, when you're dealing on static, obviously there's issues and troubles when you get into the static business, but when you're running these 24-hour gauntlets and you're working 12 or 18 hours, you are.
Absolutely.
Just a day. You're working in a day, and the environment's not always great. You don't ever, you're lucky if you get a shaded position. You might be out in the field in the sun.
Yeah.
And it's $9 or $10 an hour for a lot of these companies. And that, with Spartan, when we created Spartan, I think, one of the good things, and I think one of the bad things, is that with a lot of these companies, their top guy didn't work the bottom positions. You know what I mean? He never known the bottom positions. Either he came in from somewhere else or he came in from the military. And then I'm not saying that's bad. Some of the better guys will be your military guys, especially endurance. When I recruit, I try to avoid, some law enforcement unless there's an account that, calls for it, because let's face it, not all cops are good security people, and not all security people are good cops.
100%. I agree with that.
It's 2 different positions. I always, when I talk about it, I always put it like there's gas mechanics and there's diesel mechanics, and there's very few that can do both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They both work on engines. They both, combustible engines, but there's 2 different things, and that's just because a person's in law enforcement, it doesn't necessarily make them a great security. Prevention is not really taught. I mean, some of the smaller towns in law enforcement, I'm sure there's going to be a cop that's listening to it say I'm wrong, but some of the smaller towns, they do, they have a prevention program, but some of these bigger cities, they just can't afford it. I mean, it's, you have a DARE program or you have a couple other ones, but, nothing against them. Anybody that wants to be in law enforcement, especially nowadays, is, it's he's obviously an honorable individual, and selfless act. Some of these towns are working, 12 or 14 hours. I don't think
anybody's going to disagree with you. We've all worked with people that are in the military. I've worked with people that are ex-special forces where I'm just shaking my head, being like, "Holy fuck, how'd you get past that? Like, and even law enforcement is a prime example too. I work with law enforcement all the time, and I've met some cops nowadays where I wouldn't stand beside you in a firefight. Like, and it's not to the whole industry or the whole public sector or private sector. It's towards individuals, and that's what people have to remember. That it comes down to the individual, not the whole industry. There's bad security guards out there. There's great.
Oh, there is. There's absolute dark side security. And most of the time they get away with it.
Oh yeah.
And they're successful at it. And then you know what I mean. But it's not my business to, you know what I mean. You can't. You know, there's. You know, I hate to use the rat term, but you can't be a rat in this industry.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean. You can't. I mean, unless it's a life and death situation, you know, where somebody is going to get hurt. And I use an example. And recently I had let me back up a little bit. Last year, I hopped on with another company, and you know, a lot of big promises, a lot of big money, and you know, they're an event company and they do other static work too. So this guy that I had him for 20 years. I mean, I literally took care of this guy for 20 years. I'm not bullshitting you. Everything I've ever done, I brought this guy with me, and he has his own little company, you know, that works into the city. And it went bad there real quick, and they both turned on me, and it was all old, you know, BS. But like I said, I've been in this industry a long time. You know, label me a bad guy. I don't care. You know what I mean? I know what I did. You know, I know what happened. As I was going to, you know, it was all over me, the possibility to jump into another company. If I was going to do that, you know what I mean? I would have never came here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we end up separate ways. And then, you know, that guy turned on me, which again, you know, getting back to, you know, tough guy and feelings, it hurts. It's hard to be in this business and do it passionately and do it good without developing feelings. And people tell you that you're not supposed to, you know, especially with clients, you're not supposed to develop feelings because you're a contractor and one day it's going to end. But, you know, to me, I've always done that way, especially with people that I've, you know, looked after, you know what I mean? Like the people that I've always kind of kept an eye at recruiting wise, you know, they might not always be the best security person or the best person or the best situation that I seen them in, but there was something about them, you know what I mean? Almost like that, you know, that dual diamond in a rough kind of thing, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
for the last few years, I've always been trying to look out for guys like that. And, you know, so I kind of brought them all into the fold in Spartan. So this guy, you know, he turns on me. Both those companies have called me, you know, for help, you know, over the last year for certain events. And I did help the one. I helped the guy that, you know, that turned on me. And part of the reason was because he showed up my door with an envelope full of money. I needed the money. And he broke my number one rule. Don't ever take a job you can't do. Yeah. If you can't do that job, don't take it, because that's going to kill you more than not showing up.
Absolutely. Yeah. That,
you know, it's going to kill you. Don't ever. And so this guy, you know, he took on, you know, I need you. You know, so it's really hard to have, you know, grudges in this industry, because again, we're not selling used cars, you know. You're not selling a product. None of this, you know, to me should be trade secrets, because like I said, trade secrets can save somebody's life. You know, why would you hold that back?
Yeah.
You know, so I helped him out for a little bit, and, you know, I got him through his, you know, his special events. And then he needed some help with the static work. And, you know, even though my significant other was like, you know, this is the same guy that, you know, turned on you, you know. And then we talked about for months, and you're going to go help this guy out. And I was like, well, you know, one, we need the money. So let's think about that. And two, I know it's coming. You know, it's like when you're a kid, when you do something wrong, you know something's coming. And some people can't live with that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm helping them with this static account, and there's issues. And I keep on telling them, I was like, look, man, you're going to have to, especially on monthly static accounts, you know what I mean? You have to prove yourself every day, and you got guys in here, you know, that are your family that they're not, you know, they're proving that you shouldn't be here. And, you know, so he loses his account and just, you know, I mean, I almost, I had some connections down in Mississippi, and so I was going to turn him onto some stuff down there, and he just loses his mind. You know what I mean? He gets to the point to where, he has some of his people following the owner that he lost the account to. I'm talking to him, look, dude, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You compete. That's the business. You compete.
Yeah.
You know what's going on. You compete. And so the more serious it got, again, not being a rat, I did send what I knew to the owner of the other company.
Yeah.
I didn't get the police involved because, he should know. Whatever you're following him for,
absolutely.
Whatever you're following him for is obviously, one, not good for him, but it's not good for the industry, because you got to remember what we all reflects this industry.
And that owner, I think that owner is going to come back and look at another security company the same way, probably.
Yeah.
So they're always going to in the back of their heads. So I had to walk away, and I was supposed to have that account, until the festival season again, and it's like, people say it's hardest to do the good thing, when nobody's looking, but to me, it's hardest to do the good thing when you need the money. You know what I mean? So it's this industry is full of. I'm sitting here with a broke car now. You know what I mean? I've already missed a couple of things that I was supposed to do, and you know what I mean. And but all you really have is your name and your reputation in this business, and you got to be careful with what you attach yourself to. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some people that they're just going to hate you. Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're just going to hate you. It could be a slide. It could be the way you look at them. Especially that imaginary hurt. They're just going to hate you in this business. And sometimes that happens. And I admit, when I was younger, I was pretty cocky, but everything I was doing was successful in the security business. You know what I mean? But I was pretty arrogant. And I never really went out of my way to disrespect anybody, especially the older folks. But again, I hear some stories from people, in the past. It's like, oh, well, I always thought you were a dick, or I always thought you that way. Well, why? Well, because you never said hi. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, or you never said this, and that helps, because to me, you shouldn't, putting yourself in, because I've been that other officer out, I've been that other person in the room that, what a hell of a thing to come to work and think that, all I'm doing to this guy, and this guy's a dick, but all it would have took me was saying, hi to him, or how was your day? And so you learn those lessons that, what, they are people.
I agree. But at the same time, though, you're there to do a job, like anybody else. It is your job to say hi to them. In a way it is, yes.
Well, I think when you get to a certain level, I think it most certainly is. I think it is, it's one of those things where you got to do.
I'm talking about when you're first starting out, you're trying to learn the industry. I think you're spending more time trying to educate yourself and ask for help and learning the industry than you are really with your coworkers that are probably at the same level as you. And I think that's
you're right. And that's, back in the day, that's how a lot of us looked at it. But you got to remember, nowadays, you're dealing with a different type of person.
Yeah, yes.
They could tell me when I was younger, you're going to go out in that parking lot and you're going to sit 18 hours. And we'll send a guy over there with hamburgers, a couple times in a day, or, be able to use the bathroom or whatever it is. And you didn't ask any questions.
Yeah.
You just went over there, sat in that empty parking lot. No one ever showed up. No one gave you your burgers. You never had a restroom break. And you weren't supposed to complain about it. And if you did complain about it, and that's another thing that I learned, that, it seemed that the people that started at, at the same level to me, or at the same place, or, the more you complain, the more of the bullshit that you got to do. So I always try to put myself, same thing like when I do the consulting and the event. Those companies, they already know how to run the events. That's not what I'm there for. I'm not there, teaching them how to run events. They're there already. They got the contract. But generally what I do is I take their supervisors, the mid-level to upper-level supervisors, and the ones that are taking care of the people, and remind them that, and work that with them. I'll work that, at Electric Force, I worked at 12 or 18 hours with them.
Yeah.
I went out there, we delivered food, and you have to follow that 2-hour block. That was the biggest thing, that everybody out here should see a supervisor every 2 hours.
Yeah.
There's not a question. And then to teach the other supervisors, hey, look, just because you're covering this area and all your people are good, there's people in the area next to you that, you know, someone needs a water or somebody needs to use a bathroom. Take the initiative while this other guy who's stuck, you know, when you get called to something, you know, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it may be 45 minutes. You know, a lot of things can be forgotten in big events, especially people.
Yeah.
You completely forget about them. Yeah. You know, that's why a lot of these people...
30,000 people to worry about? So, yeah, I could imagine.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Or if you're in an event with, you know, 100, 125 guards, you know, some of these people, you know, they'll sign up for that, you know, just to jump off the... You know, I've seen it to where, you know, these kids, you know, jump off the golf cart on the way to a position, take off their shirt and blend into the crowd. You know what I mean? They just want to get there. They're not... But you still got to cover that position. You know what I mean? And that's... You know, but that's kind of like the challenges I think I like of events. You know, going back to the whole, you know, I think the beauty of it is, you know, there's always something. There's always a challenge, and people can't be forgotten because, you know, if you take care of your people, and then the other thing I realize is pride. You know, you're not just a security guard.
Yeah.
You're not. You're not just a security guard. And I realized that when I got into management, that a lot of people had that mindset. Well, why would I do that? I'm just a security guard. Well, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You know, what is that your mom out there that's lost that can't find her car? You know, you would go out and help her. Well, yeah, I would. And you're absolutely going to go out and help her, this lady now. Yeah. You know what I mean? You got to, and once, you know, people, more so even money, you know, you give them a little pride and they start walking with their heads up and they start walking a little bit stronger. And the people that I got around me now, you know, those are the people that's been with me for years. You know, the ones that's been, you know, that I know that I can ask them to do anything and they're just going to do it. You know, Spartan, we don't do, I know I'm jumping around here, but Spartan, absolutely. We don't do. Perfect. We don't do the big, you know, I don't think Spartan will ever do a big event anymore. You know, it's a more so I'm consulting. I don't think people realize the amount of effort and expense it takes to put this stuff together. I mean, you know, for instance, you know, the company I'm working out of Electric Force with, they're out of Grand Rapids. They're called Centurion Security Solutions, and they're a fantastic company. And this is the other things that I look for. There's certain connections in your life that you got to pay attention to. Yeah. And here's two of them. Mr. Ortez's company, you know, that he owned, that he did private investigation through, was called Centurion. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so I ended up making connection with this company, and they were owned by a guy named House Lumen, and this guy was another fantastic, you know, heavy-hitting security guy, especially on the west side of the state. You know, I worked some places with him, but I never really got to work directly with him. He ended up passing a couple months before I made contact with these guys, and you know, it's being run by a guy named Chris Jansen and RJ King now, or RJ Brinks. RJ Brinks is the security director at the intersection in Grand Rapids, and you know, they're a super talented guy, super talented company, and it's kind of the companies that I look forward to attach myself to. You know what I mean? Yep. They do bring in a lot of military people, but they also bring in, you know, all sorts of people. You know what I mean? They got to have talent in everything. You know, especially events. You know, well, you know just as well as I do. Security is not a one-talented. You know, it's not a one-horse show. No. You know, the more stuff that you can bring to the table, the more successful you're going to be. And the more opportunities that you're going to come across. Absolutely. So, you know, when I attach myself to these guys, I look for those connections. One, you know, they're called Centurion, so obviously remind me of Joe Ortez. How, like I said, and working under a house company was pretty amazing. Because, like I said, he was a pretty amazing guy. Yeah. And you know, when I went out to Electric Forest, I mean, we did it. They got the call like maybe a month before show date or something. You know, so they had to pull 50 to 65 guys on top of, you know, the 4 or 5 other companies that's bringing hundreds. You know, obviously they were short somewhere. Right. So, you know, so
are they contacting you for the consulting part or to bring on more bodies for the positions?
A little bit of both. Okay. You know, because they know that, you know, the guys I bring, they're not, you know, they're not whiners. You know, they know how to take care. You know, a self-sufficient person is the best person you can take to an event. You know what I'm saying? I got a guy that, he'll sleep in his van. He has his own cooler. He brings his own food. He realistically doesn't have to leave an area for 36 hours to do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I know guys, that do that, and they, I've seen them work, and there's some pretty bad conditions, and so I bring them. I don't make anything off them, but again, it's one of those events that you really want to work for. It's a resume builder. Electric Force is huge. It's up there with Bonnaroo and Lollapalooza, and the summer camp thing that's in Illinois is early year, but it's it's on that level. So anyone that I can get in there, it's going to help them. And that's what I always try to do is, and I learned from these older guys that you can't hold your information. You have to recycle it. One for the better of whatever it is you're working for, but for the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, people got to know these stories. They got to know these stories. Even like I do like history, obviously in Civil War, but history in our industry. Yeah. Like Elvis Presley's people. Yeah. Besides a sitting president, those guys invented event security.
Yeah,
they really did.
Yes,
you know what I mean. And it's so that's one thing that Facebook allows. It makes you to make some of these contacts, so I can talk to them. I don't want nothing from them, but their information. As far as Dick, his name's Dick Grove. He's he's Elvis's head security guy. He wrote a book. I think everyone should probably that's in the industry should read it, because it tells all those stories from a security point of view.
Yeah.
Those troubles with steps or exits, or there's always an issue, and issue of dealing with a talent, especially a talent like Elvis Presley. Yeah. But not just those guys, but even like you learn why it is that we do what we do, or why there is companies, and you think about up to a certain time in history, all the event security went to the Hells Angels.
Yeah.
They did. There was one event.
Wasn't it up until Woodstock, and then that kind of shut everything down?
No, it was the Elmont Free Festival.
Oh, okay.
It was in like Elmont, Speedway in California, and a guy got killed. They got cleared of it. The guy brought a gun, but that was the last of them, and CSC was born. You know what I mean? So it's another thing that social media allows you to, to reach out to people. Yeah. And again, if you're going to be in this industry, why would you not want to reach out to someone from CSC?
Yeah.
I mean, they're really the creators of the industry, and pay attention to what they're doing. Yeah. You really should. I mean, so when I have one of your questions was, when I have a day off, this is what I do on my day off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I drive my, significant other, crazy, because this is when you're a security person, you can't turn it off.
No, absolutely no. I try to tell I try to tell my own wife that.
I'll be laying in bed, and then all of a sudden something will hit me, or a quota hit me, or an event will hit me, or something will hit me, and like, what are you doing? It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But so especially now, I've been taking the time, and you got to know our history, and even like Woodstock, the reached out to some of the security people, that were at Woodstock. A lot of people think it was just Hog Farm. And don't get me wrong, Hog Farm saved Woodstock. It would probably have been a disaster.
Yeah.
On many levels if it wasn't for Hog Farm. But they actually had, security guys there. There were actually a handful of off-duty New York cops. And, Facebook, they allow you to connect with these people. So, to me, if you're going to be in the industry, why not? You want to talk to these people. You want to hear those experiences. Or even, watch that movie. Why we have a road closed that, my exit's 5 feet there. Why can't I go straight? Why am I going 10 miles around the venue to get right back there? Well, because they have to keep that road open, because you can look at Woodstock.
Yeah.
They had to fly stuff in. I mean, there was nowhere, parking. Why is parking? Now there's companies that just do parking that were old security companies.
Yeah.
Because it's a talent, you know what I mean? It's a talent, and even like doors, there's some companies and guys that known for great doors. Yeah. That's one of the things that I always recognize, security or Centurion out of Grand Rapids. They were fantastic at the doors. I mean, they're already doing stadiums, so why not, try to contact. And I was honored when they called and said, hey, look, I was supposed to go work with a national and for Electric Force, and said, hey, whatever they're paying you, we'll double it.
Yeah.
And we'll pay you when you leave.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait. Because a lot of these events you'll wait. You shouldn't wait no more than 3 or 4 weeks. But I've seen horror stories where, it went 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. If it takes that long to pay your people, you shouldn't be in this business.
Absolutely.
And you really shouldn't work for that person either. But there's nationals out there that do it.
Yeah.
And they consistently do it.
Yeah. When you're working with these other companies, I'm not talking about the one that's paying you, but I mean, if you're working with other companies at the same level, how do you deal with the logistics of that? And how do you create kind of like who's in charge or who's to?
Well, a lot of that's already set up. Like, for instance, like with Electric Forest, the promoters, their main company under them is Access. So generally everything runs through Access. Yeah. I may be wrong, but this is how I perceived it, from the questions I asked and, from some other people. And again, on my time off, I'd go out of my way and talk to some people. Some of the people I already know, or some of the people I've heard of, or some of the people that you only see on Facebook. So I always made it a point to, no matter where I work, is try to meet as many people from that other company, especially not just the owners, because, I mean, no offense, I really don't care about them. I care about the mid-level supervisors or the supervisors or even the officers, the people that I'm going to be dealing with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I can meet an owner, that's great. But I'm, it's, again, security being a cutthroat industry. Anytime that you want to meet an owner, it's always like, what are you trying to take from me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't deal with that.
Do you find the working relationship between the companies good for the most part?
For the most part, it is, and I mean, you have to be. I mean, these companies, these promotion companies, they're not going to deal with any trouble.
Yeah,
they're having trouble. They're going to send you home. But but
you get a lot of companies who their staff will be like, "Well, I don't have to listen to you," type of attitude, and that does happen a lot. So that's. If it happens, it's usually squashed between the companies. But generally, what happens is there's really not a mixture of the companies per se in the same location. Like, right. Yeah.
One company may take, parking lots A through F, which is on the other side of the, you know what I mean? And then some companies just do the actual inside. And then there's some companies that are watching roads, that are the backdrop that, a regular person will never see, but still require, a security person there. So for the most part, it's spread out. But, with Centurion, I mean, because they were called in the last hand, we had to share a radio with another company. I mean, which once we worked that out, communications is the biggest thing. But once we worked that out, it was pretty much okay. I mean, we knew what we were doing, and even them, they threw them around in places that they were having problems with, because again, it's, I get people stirred up when I'm going to say what I'm about to say, but because you need so many people, sometimes, and I'm not saying that an older person shouldn't be involved in an event or a person that's, 5 foot, 105 pounds, male, female, I mean, but there's places that you should be putting those people, I mean, you shouldn't be putting those people to where, there's going to be a mosh pit or there's going to be a fight, because even a guy that's 6'6", 300 pounds is going to bull me over at 6 foot 220. He's going to bull me over. It's pure momentum. It's nothing to do with the male or female or big size or small size. It has nothing to do with it. But when you're dealing with when you're going to have someone running at you, and I'm not talking, most of these people aren't judo masters. They're not karate masters. You know what I'm saying? They don't have that knowledge. A lot of them are college kids. A lot of them are, retirees. And again, not that they don't have a place, but I think a lot of companies need to be careful on what you should know your staff, and you should be able to set your staff up to where they're going to be successful. You don't want to put somebody.
I agree, but I think your staff should also know their limits.
They should.
And I feel
that a lot of people don't want to say no.
I can do it. But you're like, well, how about you just give
what I noticed when working with some of these other companies, a lot of these people don't want to say no.
Yeah.
Like I won't say what event, but there was an older guy from another company, and he's been working 18 hours, and he's doing a fantastic job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But after the third or fourth day of 100-degree weather, it starts to wear on all of us, and you can tell. You know what I mean? He's ash. He looks ashy, and and you can tell he's dehydrated. I mean, there's a problem. And I kept on telling him, hey, look, man, there's both of us back here. Just go tell your supervisor, you need to sit down for a minute. Well, no. They said, no, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
If he tells you anything else, I'm going to find the guy, the promoting guy because each promotion company will have a security guy in control of an area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you'll have someone that speaks directly for the client. I was like, I'll find him and I'll tell him. You know what I mean? You can't do that to people,
Yeah.
So, but he didn't know he could do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't, I don't know if it's how it was expressed to him, but what he understood is that, and maybe it's a generation thing. I mean, a lot of the older folks, they worked until you told them not to.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I don't know what it was, but he didn't know that he was able to do that. And, and he came up and, a couple of days later, and I felt bad because, you know what I mean? They're going to pull me from the spot. They're not going to pay me my money. I'm like, well, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Don't worry. If any of that happens, you know what I mean? I'm a nobody, but I'll make enough stink that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And, and I never heard anything if it happened or not, but they did end up pulling him off there and he did. He needed a break.
Yeah.
And that's, that's a big thing with these events that people don't realize. I mean, they're gauntlets. I mean, they're 12, 18-hour days and, the heat and sometimes the rain and sometimes the mud. And it's just, sometimes, I always thought that it's one of those things that if there wasn't security, none of these events would happen. You know what I mean? People don't realize what exactly it is, and they shouldn't. And that's kind of the key of it. You know what I mean? When you throw somebody out, it shouldn't be a big show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There shouldn't be. Well, I was at this show and I didn't see any trouble. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of what that's kind of the whole point of what we're doing is that you don't want to make a show of it. So when you're pulling somebody out of there, if you're or somebody's doing something they shouldn't be, you're not making a big show of it. Especially today's video, everybody's got a video.
Yeah.
You want to get them out of that area. You want to get them, just remove everything from it and just not deal with it.
Now, the type of people that you have at your events, what type of certifications do you usually try to have them have before they?
Well, I know most, access. I believe you got to have what's a crowd control license, and that's something that I do too. Is each state, they'll have like an insurance, waiver, that someone that's certified, like the crowd control will have to sign off, and basically what you're doing is you're signing off, making sure that the signage is correctly, the fire alarm system's working. Right. There is some kind of escape plan, but if you go to a lot of these states, they have these certifications. So I know some of these companies, they'll make sure that you have a crowd control supervisor certification.
Okay. And
there is a national one that you can do it all states. But if you take the time and you go to the states individually, most of them have it. I mean, you still got to take the test. Yeah. I mean, you still got to go through their thing. You still got to take the test. But a lot of times, it's free. And that's, that's what kind of started me moving in the direction of, doing again, trying to add to my resume. I did big venues. I did Ford Field. I've done a couple other ones, the Palace. But, I'm working at a place now, I'm consulting with, it's called Harpo's, and it's like it's like the Whiskey Go-Go of the East, or I should say the Whiskey Go-Go in Los Angeles is the Harpo's of the West.
Yeah. But
it's, it's a historic place, and it's, even and they're making the change now to back in the day it was all bouncers, so now a lot of these places are adding a security element, blending in with the bouncers, they're not really saying bouncers anymore. But it's a whole nother industry that there was legends in and working at, helping out this Harpo's place. And one, it was bought by a guy named Roosevelt, and he's like a city of Detroit rock legend. He, it's almost an honor to work there. You know what I mean? And I hate to use it as a resume builder, but you kind of are. I mean, you have to think of that, especially if you're going to be an independent, you're not going to stick with one company. And I guess that's how I, put myself as an independent. You have to be willing, to go back sometimes. You have to be willing to do stuff that you might think is below you. You should never get to that point where anything in security is below you, right? Because it's going to be a quick way to get out of the business. So I did some work with a band called Riot in Progress, and this was an up-and-coming band out of Detroit with this guy named Matt Brewerton, which is another bouncer legend in the city of Detroit. And so he had the connection at the Harpo's that they needed a little help. So I went in there and, the amount of the bands, White Zombie, I mean, they got their start in there. It was like, one of the first booking places for Slayer in Detroit. Especially the booker, he was the first guy that brought Slayer to Detroit. Yeah. And so, I help them with everything. I help them with the parking lot. I help them with inside. And, sometimes I'm armed there. Sometimes I'm not. And it's, I met, some of these, I can't remember Joe's last name, but there was another, and he'd be like the Sam Elliott in Roadhouse, character version of City of Detroit. This guy's like in his 60s, maybe even early 70s, and still doing it, although he says he's retiring this year. And, he's a little bit deaf, and, anyone that's been doing in this industry for any amount of time, you're going to lose some of your hearing. I'm going through that now. You could tell on what side of the stage I was always on by how well I can hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I started working in there and, helping them out with some things. And we did the Phil Anzalo, I think I'm saying his name right, the singer from Pantera. They just did a tribute set to Pantera, with his Illegals band. And we sold out, dude. And it's like, I went to Pantera show when I was maybe 20 years old. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it almost takes you back. But what the funny part about this is when you're talking about generational, security people is, I was just like, well, look, it pays the same. So I'll start out outside. They let me do my thing, and I'll just help out outside. And they got through the first couple of acts, and everybody was good. So when the headliner came on there, it started getting a little rough. You know what I mean? Yeah. Mosh pits are kind of tough anyway. But if you ever go to YouTube, look at a Harpo's mosh pit, it's pretty amazing. So they were having troubles down there, and they had this Joe guy in the middle, and he was doing his own. But this is another thing going back to where military history, especially Napoleonic history, the knowledge of, or at least how it worked, especially large movements or, flanks and centers. I think it helps is that, our center, we were strong, but we were weak at the flank. You know what I mean? And it's one of those, some of those shows will have a waiver. Hey, if we see a can throw on stage, we're going to stop playing for 45 minutes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or if we see this, we're going to stop. You know what I mean? So you have to go a long way to make sure that none of that stuff happens. So the people on the right flank, younger guys in their 20s, and they just, God bless them, they just couldn't do it,
Yeah.
So I went down there, and another guy went down there, and so we ended up finishing the show, and stopped the ruckus, and everybody had a good time. So when it stopped it over and the lights came on, I look over, and I'm the youngest guy in there at 44.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is, if you get a chance to look at it, it's Phil and the Illegals show at Harpo's from early, like November 13th. If you look, you can see my Detroit hat, in the middle of it. There's no barriers at Harpo's. But anyway, working with guys like that, or working with a guy named like Bobby Rizzo, who's been at Harpo's, who's been in the bouncing business since the '82. And another thing, when you talk about size, I mean, this guy's like 5'5", maybe 140, 150, but I wouldn't fight him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Because he's, Harpo's in the '80s, it was, it was like one of those movies, like one of those clubs off a Roadhouse. I mean, they were sweeping blood and eyeballs, off the floor every night. And, so why not? I'm going to ask those guys about, events or certain things that Harpo's is known for. And when you come, to find out, especially with, security, the story is not always what the public knows,
Mm-hmm.
So why not, why not try to figure out, why are we doing this? Why are we here? And these stories need to be told.
Absolutely. 100%. Now, going back to the certifications, though, do you ever find that you need medical as part of the events? Because I know in Canada here, medical is a huge one to be.
Well, there's a couple companies that are doing that. As far as like they used to be security companies, now they're doing all medical.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing. Like when I was doing the micro festivals, and this is like prior to Spartan and maybe the start of Spartan. we first got in there and they had a nurse and it was great. You know what I mean? Because I was like, look, I got a medic. I got to charge you for him, but he's also a security guy, so I can make it cheap. No, we have a nurse. Yeah. We go through there, and the nurse is great up to 6 p.m.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But all they told her that she had to work to 6 p.m., and that was it.
Yeah, 6 to 6 or something. Yeah.
So the next festival, I was like, well, I know you guys got a nurse, but this is what happened, and we had a medical. So you can either contact the Red Cross, and they have a fantastic program. That you can get it fairly cheap, or I could bring a medic. You know, so I ended up bringing a medic to the second one, and there really wasn't a lot going on, but you know what I mean, he earned his money. I mean, because there's always little cuts and burns, and you know, especially you add alcohol and drugs to stuff, people think they can fly, or you know, the fire is a bird and they're trying to catch it, or you know what I mean? There's always, especially if you're dealing with a certain crowd, you know what I mean? There's always certain elements that you expect to deal with. But after that, you know, I kind of rode into it to where, you know, obviously we still help with response and that kind of stuff, but you have to have a certified, independent, you know what I mean? Because it was just too much on us, and it's just not right. It's not fair. Right. You got to have some kind of, and they helped out a lot. You know, I don't know what they were paying them, but you know, Electric Forest, they have their own department. You know what I mean? And they, you know, they bring in people from all over, and you know, seeing the backside of their operations, they're huge. Yeah. You know, they do a lot, and they're absolutely needed. Absolutely needed. You know, I mean, you need a parking company, you need a security company, and you need medical.
Now, when dealing with talent, what do you advise people to do?
Well, a lot of them is you have to go with whatever's written. You know what I mean? Sometimes they'll have a waiver in the contract that, you know, I mean, if you're actually dealing with talent, a lot of times, you know, if you're just covering an area where they'll say hi. I mean, don't really ask for a picture. Although I have in the past, but with a lot of my pictures, you know, it's a lot of old rockers and people that I've worked with in the past. You know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah, they're great guys, but I do know of, you know what I mean? There is some past experience with them. And again, you know, there's sometimes that you just can't, you know what I mean? You just, you can't say anything to them. Yeah. You know what I mean? If they want things a certain way, then that's just how you got to deal with them. And I mean, it's really just a call. I mean, I always try to be as personable a person as I can, especially working. And they're just like people just like us. So most of the time they will, especially after they get done, you know, a lot of times, you know, especially at Harpo's, you know, I mean, they'll sit there and talk to you. Yeah. You know, especially if they're one of the lower sets or if they haven't gone on yet. We've had them out there barbecuing, you know, at the back door. Yeah. But, you know, it's really, if you can't, you can't. You know, a lot of them will come out and say, you know, they don't even allow you to bring your cell phone, you know, on your post. You just can't. There's no pictures at all. And that's just what you got to do. Right. You know what I mean? You can tag it in Facebook when you get back to your car.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What are some of your most memorable events?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, a lot of the micro festivals, you know, again, you know, when I was working for an armored company and they had an extra security license, you know, so that's how I started getting back into like doing the festivals on my own, you know, as far as the guy that was running all of it. And we did a lot of micro festivals. What I mean by micro festivals, you're talking maybe 25 to maybe 10,000 people, but, you know, no more than that. And a lot of times, a lot less than that. Right. And with a lot of these micro festivals, they were getting shut down by their townships, you know, because a lot of them, you got to remember, this is one thing that when I always tell my guys, you know, especially if you go to Electric Forest, there's somewhat people perceive as magical. You know, we're going to a place that people go to get away from people like us. Right. Yeah. You know, that's their mindset. You know what I'm saying? You know, so one of the biggest things you have to do is you have to change their mindset. Yes, you're a security guard, but you're here to help. Yeah. If you have a problem, I will help you. You know, I'm not here just because you've had too much to drink and I'm going to throw you out. Right. No, you had too much to drink and your friends need to take you back to your camp. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if you had too much to drink where you need an ambulance, you know, that was the other thing doing the micro. micro festivals. It was my call. If I say we need an ambulance, because they didn't want the publicity. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these micro festivals, they try to operate, under the radar as much as possible. So a lot of it we started out doing was trying to save a couple of these, and one was called the Willow Ranch, which operates somewhat today. They're more of an artist park and a campground. But we had a connection that, they got a hold of me and saying they were having some problems. And basically it came down to, it was either going to be their deputies, if you wanted an event there, or private security. Right. So they brought us in, and then, I had to go talk to the township, and, we had to show them our credentials and some of the stuff that we've done in the past. And, we were going to save this for this guy because they were threatening to take his land. And that's the other thing when I talk about dark side. I can't tell you many times that I've seen people, that, just in it for a buck, and they don't care about the property owner, or they don't care about this. And they're going to milk a situation or an event as much as they can, and then just take off, and they don't have to deal with any of the repercussions. So seeing some of that stuff in the past when I was younger, one of the first things I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to try to help out some of these people that, they're in areas that, most of them were hippie festivals, but they're in areas that were, they're not really friendly to the hippies or any of that stuff. And again, my background, I didn't know too much about it. I knew a little bit about Woodstock at the time, but, I didn't really care to get to know the reasons why people do what they do, especially in that certain sect. But once we started working with them and getting to know, like the property owner, this guy named Ben Willow, which is an amazing guy in himself, and they'll make a statue of him one day. No bullshit. This guy makes willow furniture, and he just he's a huge talent. He's like, I don't want to say Mr. Rogers, but on the same level as Mr. Rogers, but within the hippie community,
Right.
And you're always, trying to help people and all that jazz. And they had a promoter there, a guy named Jimmy Valentine out of Chicago. Again, another super talented guy. A bit weird, again, dealing with clients, you have to learn that some of these people may not be in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I first started out there, I had a kid that I was grooming named Adam, and they liked him better initially. So whenever dealing with them, I always allowed Adam to go talk to him.
Absolutely.
And he was in his 20s, and it's a shame because he ended up getting killed on a motorcycle.
Oh no!
Like our second year.
Yeah.
But he's again another one of those security stories that people will never know. And but he was a young guy, 23, 24 years old, but he's extremely talented and one of those guys that could drive and fix anything. So he was multi-use, and he could cook. So he was able to bring a lot to the table and a lot of talent to the table. So when he passed the second year, I had to, I don't know if I'd say eat my ego, but I had to figure out whatever it was that was turning these people off towards me. And I always was taught that, it's a firm handshake, you look in the eye, but with some people, they don't like that,
Yeah.
So I had to learn like little lessons like that. And we were able to groom the relationship that I ended up doing events there for probably 7 or 8 years, that we did 3 or 4 events every year for them, that varied from a few thousand people to, 8,000 or 9,000 people. We only needed the police on a couple levels. You're always going to need an ambulance for something. And that was, that's kind of what you have to do. I think with some people, you have to kind of educate exactly, what is the norm or what security can do and what it can't do. And, especially when you start getting into licenses and contracts, and it's just, you have to put certain things in there to protect you. And, even though, an ambulance coming here, does signal the neighbors that you need an ambulance.
Yeah.
But, a lot of it's dehydrating because people don't know how to take care of each other,
right.
Each other, or they don't, how to look out for themselves. So I think some of those events, learning now and growing my craft, so to speak, but growing, I think, as a person, learning to see things differently, as you know, security is not always black and white. There's always gray.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people operate, in the shade of gray.
Yeah.
There's always exception to the rule. You know what I mean? And sometimes I always found out, especially working those places, showing that you care for somebody goes a long way, especially if that person doesn't have the ability to comprehend what's going on. And, with that community, like, when you deal with the country crowd, you're going to have drinking, you're going to have fights. With the hippie crowd, you're going to have marijuana, which is, I'd rather deal with a pothead than a drunk.
Yeah.
But you're going to have some of the hallucinogens. And the biggest thing with the hallucinogens is that if your mind's not right, the hallucinogens is going to bring all that out.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never understood why someone would think it'd be fun to take hallucinogens in such an area where you can't control anything around you.
Yeah.
The lights, the flashing, the music, I just think they would,
The people, yeah, 100%.
It just wouldn't be any fun. But, some of the people, they go there for that, and they save up a whole year for, to do that kind of stuff. And, sometimes you have to spend the time to walk somebody through a bad trip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because especially if they're not, if they appear to be in a medical problem, or if they get cleared by the medic, other than the fact that they're high, you maybe not necessarily have to send them to an ambulance, you know what I mean? And, my biggest thing is that, where's your friends?
Yeah. But they may not see that at that moment, though.
And so sometimes, we would bring them back to, I always, especially the micro festivals, I always demanded where security can go and let, take your mask off.
Yeah.
And, where you can relax behind the fire, you can, chill out. You're not in the face of the public. So a lot of times, and as the years got on, the promoter ended up putting his bus there. To show you the relationship.
Yeah.
But, he was really good at it too. Him and his wife were really good at helping people that needed to be helped. And they're not bad people. You know what I mean? They just, they took something that's going to bring out whatever negative in your life is.
Right.
And unfortunately, we're all going to have to sit here and deal with it. But, you get sad cases. Like we had this one guy, his family or his friends, and this is no bullshit, broke him out of a halfway house or something in Illinois, or a mental house or something, and they got tired of him, and they told him they were taking him to the beach, and they gave him the money to get into the festival, and this ranch was sand, so it kind of looks like the beach, Yeah. So they just dropped him off and told him to keep on walking, give the money to the girl at the table and walk to the beach. And of course, we're 10 miles from the beach.
Yeah.
After about 4 or 5 hours, seeing this guy walking back, and it's starting to get cold. You know what I mean? It was a weird area. It'd be 90 degrees in the daytime. It would drop down to the, mid 50s, low 40, high 40s at night, on the lake effect. But, we see this guy just shivering and start talking to him, and you just can't believe the story that he's telling you. Like, those some of the bitches dropped me off at the beach. Like, who dropped you off at the beach? What are you talking about? You're nowhere near a beach.
Yeah.
And then, the promoter, this Jimmy Valentine guy, came around, and it kind of humbled me for a little bit to see how much this guy, not only could he be at his level, but almost to where at the end of it, these guys are like best friends.
Yeah.
And there was something really wrong with this guy. He wasn't there at all. And he ended up giving him, the promoter ended up giving him his pants because he had shorts on because he was going to the beach.
Yeah. Well, of course.
He didn't have a shirt on. He didn't have a shirt on because he was going to the beach.
Yeah.
So I ended up giving him his shirt and even feeding this guy, and it just got to the point to where, I told him, I was like, look, it's a danger. One, we don't know really what's wrong with him. And two, there's nobody here that's claiming him. You can't, it's getting to the point, and I always ran my numbers low enough to where, everyone made money, but it wasn't a huge expense as far as security-wise, you know what I mean? Because I brought guys that could pull massive hours. I brought guys that want to be there, that have to be there. Yeah. And I brought operators, so I wasn't worried about guys, they wanted that money and they'd work that 6 or 18 hours and not only work it, but do it really well, you know what I mean? Yeah. And if the problem happened when they were sleeping, then, everybody got up and helped to handle it. But, I was like, we just don't have the numbers to sit with this guy. And, we're going to be busy tonight, Yeah. And so it got to the point where I was like, we're just going to have to call the cops. I mean, there's just no other way around it. We're just going to have to get them involved. And then, the cops are there and this promoter and who don't know this guy from Adam, you know what I mean? Starts crying and I'm, what the hell is that? But he felt that bad, to call the cop, that he wasn't be able to help that guy beyond what he did. Right. I mean, it affected him, and it wasn't fake. So I think about memories like that. And you really only get those kind of at the micro festivals. I mean, one of the big things they always tell you is not to get too personal with people. Yeah. But I really don't know how to do it any other way. You know what I mean? And through the years they would call, if they had issues with this or issues with that. We do have, like at the Willow Ranch, they don't have any big events there anymore. There was another one there that, as far as memorable, we helped open another venue that was same area but a different township, and it was called Elderberry Farms, and it was owned by a guy named Daniel Green, which is another hippie guy, but he was like a lumberjack or anything. And it's amazing what this guy would do, 100 feet above ground. But yeah, he it was a nice property. He put a lot of money into it as far as the stage is concerned, and we help him. We helped him not only with the security, but kind of help with dealing with the township, you know what I mean? And there was just people that he always helped out that didn't agree with what he was doing, you know what I mean? So they would go out of their way to cause problems. These were people that were his family, you know what I mean? One of the things that I always heard from the old timers, when you're dealing with folks, two of the worst things you can tell somebody is that when you're trying to welcome them is, one, and this is your home. This is your home and we are family. When you're dealing with some people, you can't tell them that. No. And so it just got to be too much there. But we had a couple, fantastic events like Bernie Worrell before he passed. The House on Fire guy. I can't remember who he played with, but he played there one Saturday night, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I mean, there was people driving that just found out about it, that drove from North Carolina, literally saw it on Facebook, got in their car in North Carolina and drove to see this guy. You know what I mean? And, we sold out that night. It was no one got a video of it. The age of the video, there's audio, but no, and this is like a couple months before Bernie died, but it was absolutely amazing. And then to see the look on Daniel Green's face, when I talk about the beauty of an empty battlefield, the venue, where these events are held are beautiful themselves. I mean, they're not only beautiful when they're empty, but they're most beautiful when they're full. And there's no better feeling seeing it from empty to full than empty again. I mean, it's almost like, it's like the end of that Gladiator movie, man. It's just like whatever bullshit you just had in the last 36 or 72 hours, you did it. Yes. And there's not a better feeling in the world, especially the bond that you have with your team members, or the bonds that you develop with people. To me, I think that stands out the most. As far as everybody uses brotherhood, but I mean, the guys that you wouldn't normally be together, or guys that wouldn't normally be around each other, and to see them when it's right, when you see it when it's flowing, when you see it when it's correct, it's a beautiful thing, man. And it's, I love the industry. It's, I always say that it's the best job I ever had, you know, and it's gave me some of the best memories. It's gave me some of the worst parts of my life. And, you know, you have ups and downs, and that's the name of the business. You got to stay relevant. You got to stay active. I mean, you have to know your history, you know, especially if you plan on being in it. I guess it's, you know, I've never met anyone that just wants to be a static guard. You know what I mean? Maybe they're just working it as a job, but if you're looking to, you know, to grow, you know, in this security, you know, take the time, even at Pinkerton, you know, take the time to learn about Alan Pinkerton.
Yeah.
You know, take the time to learn about Wells Fargo, the Pony Express. Take time, you know, I mean, they're all roots in the security industry.
Yeah. Beautiful.
You know, take the time to learn that stuff.
And what did you find is the most challenging part of the security events from pre-planning to the end?
Well, I mean, obviously the logistics is tough. You know what I mean? You know, they want those people there from a certain time. You know, and again, this goes back to, you know, moving large troops around, you know, during the Napoleonic, you know, time frame. It takes a long time. You know what I mean? If you're supposed to be there at 1, the time to show up to the camper or to the transportation vehicle isn't 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's, you know, and people, well, I'm not getting paid from 12:30. I'm getting paid from 1. Well, those are kind of the things that you have to take, you know, as not necessarily as a grain of salt, but those are the kind of things that you got to understand that, you know, you have to be in position by 1. And so I think that's the toughest to get people, you know, unless you're only dealing with, you know, 10 or 15 people. But when you're dealing with, you know, 50, 75, 100, you know, placements of people, you have to make sure that they're all there. And you know, it comes down to recruiting. You have to be careful with what issue you take on. And, you know, because everybody has an issue. You know, everyone's going to have a complaint.
I agree.
You know, but, you know, part of what we do is, you know, we have to sit there and listen to it because there are people too.
Yeah.
You know, a person's not going to sit there for 18 hours a day if you're a dick to them. They're just not, especially nowadays. Now, back in the day, you know, when I was first coming up, you could, you know, because I had some supervisors that were like, hey, man, you know, I was supposed to get food for like 5 hours ago. Oh, you didn't get food? No, I didn't get food. Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, but I stayed it out. But nowadays, you know, they're not going to do that. They're going to go home.
Yeah.
You know, I've had, and we all have it. I mean, you'll have washouts from day 1. You know, the day 2, it's like, oh, well, I thought I was going to be, you know, closer to the act, or I thought I was going to be able to see it, or, you know, and it's always, you know, I can't show up. You know, my mother died, or, you know, my sister got in an accident, or, you know, I mean, it's, look, if you don't want to work it, just tell me. I don't need this.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear the story. I get it. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, especially entertainment security, you get into festivals, events. It's not for everybody.
No, and it's the mindset and the type of person I agree 100% with. But I do tell people, you know, this industry is not for you. It's not a failure on your part. It's just not. This isn't your line of work. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what they want to do. I mean, there's some things that are teachable. You could teach somebody to watch a camera and open the door. You know, that's
absolutely you can, but you can't teach them common sense.
No, hey, you know, that person doesn't have a badge on. You shouldn't let that person in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. What advice can you give people that are looking to get into the industry? You've given a lot, but specifically, if there's anything you can think of.
Well, I mean, again, it depends on what. Well, any type of security you're going to get into, you're going to deal with somebody. You know, be it, you know, the client's employees or, you know, other contractors. You know, for that kind of stuff, you got to know what you're getting into. And to me, you really shouldn't be taking any job unless you do some kind of research on it. You know, I mean, especially with Facebook, it allows you the opportunity to talk to many different people in many different fields. And most people will be honest with you about it. You know, if you're getting into events, you know, I mean, you're going to expect that it's not easy. And the money, you know, at this point isn't great. You know, I think, you know, with Spartan, I paid people, you know, 12 or 13 and up.
Yeah.
But there's festival companies, you know, event companies that still pay $9.50, $10, maybe $10.50 if you're lucky. You know, and you have to work.
There's still a lot of underbidding that's happening in festivals. Events.
Well, I think that, and then a lot of subcontracting. You know what I mean? When I did subcontracting, I might have made $1, but I'm already starting at that guy is going to make $5 off my dollar. You know what I mean? He's already, he's already, I'm already dealing with a reduced rate. So I try to give as much as I can to the people, because like I said, with a lot of these companies, unless you've done it, unless you've been out there, you've been that guy in the parking lot, or you've been that guy at a gate, where you won, the 20,000 people in the gate, and you know what I mean? You don't never know until you're there. Or why am I wanting this guy for the 10th time if there's no re-entry? You know what I mean? Yeah. You just got to know that there's certain things that you're going to deal with. And again, you want to set yourself up to succeed. You know what I mean? And that same thing with these companies. I mean, they're so concentrated on filling gaps or filling spaces. They don't care if that person's going to succeed, because they look at it that, that guy's going to at least, if I got to fire him in 2 weeks, it gives me 2 weeks to recruit. Then maybe find someone else, and that's what majority of them are thinking about. Then how long is this guy going to last before I have to fire him to get somebody else?
Retention.
Well, it needs to be on that person's end too. You need to find out, where can I go from here? What, and then the other thing, like connections. I mean, they're not going to hire you if they don't know you.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? Be it companies or even like event security. If they don't know you, they're not going to hire you. I mean, so you have to put yourself in a position where you're going to do stuff. You know what I mean? If you're just sitting at a desk, and you're getting bored, do events. Hop on. There's a lot of companies that'll hire temporary employees. You know what I mean? There's so much the security beside. I mean, it's not a one-sided thing. I mean, if you look at how much the industry has grown, since I started, I mean, it's, we even got private firefighters. Right. You know what I mean? I mean, all that starts, from, the history of private contracting, and look at overseas. Look at the work the guys are doing overseas. I mean, maybe that's what somebody wants to do. But you really want to, I mean, anything I've ever done, I think great. I really hardly ever planned, unless this event, most of the great things that happened in my life happened, because of, maybe circumstances or certain events, so it's hard to plan, but you want to make sure that you're in the best position for you to succeed. I mean, if you can't, it's sitting and watching a screen, if you can't sit at your home and watch TV, more than an hour a day, sitting in a control box watching cameras all day, it may not be for you. Yeah. Because you have to watch them. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you have to pay attention. I mean, we had dispatchers in the mall, with the camera system in. Yeah, I'm paying you to answer phone calls, but I'm also paying you to watch the freaking camera.
Yeah, 100%.
Because cameras aren't good unless you got somebody to respond to it. It's all historical.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to look at it at a later date unless you get somebody that can respond to it.
Yeah.
Like they started that out. When I first started out, that they were replacing people with cameras. You know what I mean? And then after a couple of years of that, they started bringing the people back when they realized that. Yeah. There's only so much a camera can do.
Yeah. What does a day in the life of you look like when you're working?
Well, it's a lot. Usually, it depends on the type of event. Like Hard Post, there's still a lot of phone calls. There's a lot of back and forth, especially like with there, we really don't know how many people until maybe the last 24 hours, as far as how many security people.
Okay.
So generally, I handle a certain end of it, and the guy that's in charge is Bobby Rizzo. He handles 98% of it. I'm there as a consultant. I'm there to help out. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. They took me into their family, and it's fantastic, and I love it. But you know what I mean? He does most of it. So there's a lot of phone calls back and forth between me and him. Usually it's either him or me that gets there the earliest. I think this last one, I think he actually beat me there, but the one before that, I think I beat him there. Because there's a lot that goes into it, and I try to, because it's, I think the importance of Harpo's, again, being a historic venue, and it's not only historic in the music industry, but it's historic, as far as the security industry, in my mind anyway. So you do a lot of things there that you probably wouldn't normally do. I'll sweep.
Yeah.
I'll pick up pop cans. You know what I mean? Anything that I can do to be involved. You know what I mean? And the best moments of those are after the shows and everyone. You get to sit down and debrief a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's you have to. There's a lot going on. Like I said, even like I haven't been since I walked away from that contract. I've done a couple things here and there, but even then, it's still a couple phone calls a day. It's definitely, emails. What my availability is for a certain day, or I'd be interested in this. I like I said, I do a lot of my spare time. I do a lot of research as far as certain events or certain people in events. I think I want to go to Paisley Park with Prince was, you know what I mean? So, and not necessarily for Prince, although I think he was fantastic. But, even his bodyguard, who's passed now, the guy who's called Big Chick, his story needs to be told. I think, yes. I want to hear that story, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gene Odom, which was, Leonard security guy. I want to know his story, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I personally can't talk to him, although, I have a little bit on Facebook, you look up a YouTube video or you look up other things or you try to find out, whatever information people are sharing for free, why not?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's only going to help build your, you got to look at yourself as a dinner plate, you know what I mean? It's steak, potatoes, and, the more you add to that plate, it's, knowledge or experience or anything else, the better off you'll be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's normally my day-to-day, event wise, or even, or not, or like today.
Yeah.
Talking to you before I was talking to you, I was watching, some videos, and, there's a lot of stuff out there that, if you're looking for, you can see, or events, if people fail, well, why they failed, or, even like with Dimebag and, who got shot on the 8th years ago, from Pantera, there's a lot of videos about that, so why not research it? Why not watch it?
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to, watch how horrible that night is, but I think there's lessons that could be learned from all that stuff. And if people are providing that information for free, anyone in any industry would be stupid enough to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. They need to do that, and they need to open up their eyes and ears and
well, you're going to get more out of doing that stuff than you are going to go get a security, a security degree from anyone, because they don't really concentrate. There's so much to it. A lot of those, they concentrate on spaces and time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And everything's in theory. I don't. That theory goes out the window. Anything that you have on a piece of paper generally goes out the window the first, half hour of an event or a half hour of a concert, or or anything. You got to have them. You got to have rules. You got to have books. You got to have all that stuff. But there's so much more to it. I think people miss the point, and I think a lot of people overlook. Like I said, the biggest thing is have pride in what you're doing. You're not just a security guard.
Yeah.
There are some guys like, oh, I don't like to hear security guard, it's security officer. Well, whatever it is, if you want to think of yourself that way, or a security agent, if it gives you pride and, you're not shoving it down people's faces, then you're okay.
Yeah, I just find that there's a lot of stereotypes to security nowadays, whether it's high-risk protection or it's just regular. Well, I don't even want to say regular. I just want to say security in general. But some countries, it's praised. And here, it just seems like, it's getting better now, I should say.
It's getting better to the sense, but if you look at there's trends, especially like, something, that a lot of us, it's been around for a long time, would think about it was a lot of the stuff that we've seen in, Vegas, or how they're rushing the gates. We've all thought about this for years, but no one really knew what the first step to take. One of the things with Ortez in the mall, when the school shootings or the active shooter thing started, one of his first instances was to pull the fire drill, pull the fire alarm and get everyone out. But they started thinking, well, that's more targets. But, the more I think about it, I think that's the right way to do it because, it's not that these people are killing people because they're great at shooting. They're killing people because they're all sitting still.
Yeah.
I mean, the hiding place, unless you can actually get in a place that nobody's going to get in or shoot out of, they're just sitting still. You don't have to be great at shooting to shoot at somebody sitting still, laying on the ground.
No.
So I think, I know that's a wholly different subject, but I think the more people moving, the more, you're basically securing the environment for the shooter.
Yeah.
Everyone locking in place, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think people have forgotten the fight back, and I think a lot of people in the industry, people coming in the industry that probably shouldn't be in it, or people coming in the industry because they're trying to get a certain thing out of it. You get involved in certain scary things like that, and you don't react the way that you're supposed to, or how do you react? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's, there's cops, like that cop in Florida who didn't respond to the shooting, they gave him hell, you know what I mean? Was he right or wrong? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that fight for flight syndrome. It's the same thing like with security. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost, in our industry, a lot of people look down on cocky people or arrogant people. I really don't, man, because I need the best of the best. You know what I mean? Especially if I'm going to put you in a position the best of the best. And if that's how you perceive yourself and you can do it, then God damn it, I'm going to tell you that too.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that some people have a perception of, they really think that hindsight is not 20/20, and that after the fact, all of a sudden they're the armchair commander or wherever you want to.
Well, yeah, that happens. That happens in everything.
And saying whether somebody should be running or somebody should be sitting still, it all depends on the situation as it is.
Well, here, I'll tell you a story, and this is from the malls.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was October or something. And you got to understand, fire alarm goes off at these places all the time. There's always a fire alarm going off, And it's about 8:40. And on the far side of the mall, the fire alarm's going off. And I look in the camera, and there's fucking smoke. Mm. I mean, like bailing in a huge corridor. Like, holy shit, we got a problem. So we go down there, and a restaurant closed. And, I don't remember what their story was, but the fryer was on, and I mean, their whole restaurant, they had the counter, and then they had like another counter. Up to that second counter, it was all flames,
Yeah.
And it was seeping in the mall, so, and I was in charge. I think I was a lieutenant. I don't think I was actually the security director at that point, but I think I was a lieutenant. I was just like, well, we got to shut down the mall right now. We're going to shut it down, close it, hit the announcements. We're going to close it. We lock off this area anyway. Let's lock it off. Everyone that's in this area, we'll put a couple guards, we'll get out, and we'll try to contain it. So that's what we did.
Right.
We contained it. We were able to get in there. We were able to get it, held. 3 or 4 of us, as, people were escorting people out of the building. Now, 95% of the mall didn't know this was going on. Okay.
Right.
The only people that knew were the 3 or 4 stores that were still open in this particular area. So the next day, and my freaking shirt had holes in it, from the grease. And I didn't really stop until the guy that was with me, and it was almost like that Backdraft movie. We're on the second table, right behind the second table. The freaking flames are hitting it, and they're flying over, and he's like, dude, I get paid $10 an hour. I don't know if this is worth it. You know what I mean? And it kind of,
yeah.
So we dumped the extinguishers we had. It was basically like just hold it over our head and empty them. Then we got out of there.
Yeah.
And it was enough to put, a lot of it on the, luckily enough, we were able, most of it landed on the fryer to where the bigger part of the issue was. So the fire department, they have to put it out. They shut down that end of the hall. The next morning, there's 10 or 15 people. First, mall manager, like, there's people calling through your head.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? There's people calling through my head. Well, because you shut them down early. I was like, well, I again, I'm still depounded. I mean, he was kind of half joking. You know what I mean? Like, property managers, if you can get a property manager that has a security background, then you're going to be okay. But if you have a property manager that's all he's ever done, he's never dealt with security or anything like that, you know what I mean? It's hard to take them because they don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't know what security is or what it does or how to achieve it. Or, you know what I mean? So it's a learning curve for them. And so I didn't really know how to take them. And sure enough, and, you know, there's people down there, you know, especially a particular restaurant guy, you know, who maybe had, you know, one person in there drinking coffee. It's not like the 15 minutes was going to make or break them, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, they were all down there and, you know, they got all lined up. And then finally, you know, the Joel Ortez comes in and him and the mall manager is like, well, you want to know why we shut you guys down early? So they took them down there and they show them it. And they're like, you know, sorry, why didn't someone tell us? We could have got killed. You know, we were sitting in here. Well, no, you weren't sitting in here. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, you win or you don't. Or here's another one. We had we had a whole bunch of jewelry stores, you know, where we were at, and it was down Gratiot, and it's, you know, probably about 8 miles from Detroit, 9 miles from Detroit. Still a good area, but we had a lot of jewelry stores, and this is like my second or third day when I moved to what's called Macoma. And we wore the Mountie hats, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
and I was coming off my lunch, and I couldn't get my Mountie hat because the supervisor wasn't in the security office, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a key at that point. I don't know, what the fuck is this guy doing? You know what I mean? I can't go out there without my hat. So finally, this guy walks past me, and I don't know what it was, but I was just like, well, you know, I need to see where this guy's going. And at the time, we had an exhibit out there, like the White House furniture, and we had like the china and plates and spoons, and it was like the whole exhibit area, you know what I mean, or court, whatever you want to call it, was full of this White House stuff. And, you know, so I'm sitting over there, and I'm trying not to be seen because they made a big deal about being in full uniform, you know, and so I'm saying, I'm like, where's this guy at? You know, I needed to come back to the office, and then I look up. And the guy just looked at me in the corner of my eye, and he started running. And I seen his hand. That, you know, the lady gave him a ring, and he started to take off with it. You know.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, you know. So I started taking off after him, and I'm like, I don't know if I should tackle him. You know, I mean, it's one thing, a ring, but if I break some of this White House jewelry, you know, the White House Chinaware, we might have a bad problem. So I'm trying to run and chase this guy. And he's fast. You know what I mean? You don't know how fast somebody is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This guy's fucking fast. You know, so I'm running, and then he dipped some earrings, and there were some Los Rich guys from one of the other stores, and they got the earrings. And, you know, so trying not to, you know, I was just going to tackle him, you know what I mean? I was just going to tackle him, but I didn't want to tackle him on the White House stuff because that would cause a problem. So not doing that allowed him to get 6 or 7 feet away from me, and I could never really make up that 6 or 7 feet, but he just finally dropped the earring, you know, or dropped the ring. It was like a $10,000 or $15,000 ring or something.
Right.
And I think the cops caught him, you know, when he finally left the property. But, you know, so we're talking to, you know, Joel Ortez, who's another one of those guys, who was happening to talk to my supervisor at the time. You know, so I'm just like, where the fuck are you at?
Yeah.
What's the point of having dispatch if you're not going to be in there when I need help? Yeah. You know, so, you know, then Joe's like, hey, you know, he was talking to me. It's my fault. You know, did you get the ring? Yeah, I got the ring. And, you know, so after all that, and not that I was expecting anything, the mom, you know, made a pretty big deal of it. Because I was fairly new still at the time there. I mean, people knew me, but I was new, you know. So, you know, the jewelry store, and they're sending me a gift card, $25 gift card, you know. $15,000 ring. They gave me a $25 gift card. And there's nothing in the store for $25. You know, so, you know, it just... You take the good or the bad. You know, not that I was expecting anything, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Why bother sending me, you know, there's nothing in your store for $25.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can't even buy couplings for $25.
Yeah.
Nothing interesting on TV? That's why you're listening to dvradio.net DVR.
This ain't reality TV!
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
Well, isn't that special?
Laddie, don't you think you should rephrase that?
Mama said that. My mom.
Good day, sir.
Now class is dismissed, gentlemen.
Thank you for listening to the full episode of Ruck Up Podcast. We wish you all to be very safe out there in your line of duty. And if you have a story to tell and want to be on the show, please check us out on all social media sites, our website at www.ruckupmedia.com, and check us out on our show notes and any other way you can get a hold of us. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace out.